G'day guys, and welcome to a preview for Randwick Guineas Day, 10th of March. Years passing quickly, getting into carnival time already, and an interesting day at Randwick. Oops, 1 second. Soft 5, rail out in the 6 metre position, 4 metres for the back straight basically. Usually 6 metres is starting to get a little bit fairer, but I think the track will be quite chopped up on that inside section still from last week where we saw them getting off, and I'd say they'll still be wanting to get 4, 5, 6 off in the straight to the better part. We'll be keeping a close eye on it, and I'm not sure how windy it's going to be. It's definitely been windy all over the place. Wind. Just check it out. So currently, it's still not too bad, 8 kilometres an hour predicted, so it shouldn't be too bad, or 13 kilometres an hour, but we'll keep a close eye on it anyway, as it is pretty gusty still, and supposed to get up later this afternoon. So first race of the day, the Aspiration Quality Mile for the fillies and mares. Interesting race with 2 favourites coming up here in Natoya and the Pinnacle that do look vulnerable, especially Natoya. The problem with this race is the distinct lack of tempo, so it will depend on who shows a bit of initiative. You've got the Pioneering likely to go forward, I suppose. Will help its stablemate as well, but it's not a horse that looks like running out a mile to me. Caravali could be behind it, which could be a little bit tricky. Perfect Rhyme's probably the one not mentioned. Perfect Rhyme's the one who probably could kick up and keep Pioneering out, which then forces the Pinnacle outside it. Don't think Perfect Rhyme really wants to be outside leader. It could wait for Caravali to kick up, sit outside and let these 2 cross, which is probably the ideal position, but then we've got these 2 out wide here in Shagra and Natoya, who are stuck for a position completely. Do they go back? I would assume so, with further probably in mind for Natoya. Quite a tricky race, sort of from the top. Oklahoma Girl's been just fair in her 2 runs back. Will she settle closer here from the softer gate? That's probably her best chance of improving, but doesn't really look to be attacking the line. Perfect Rhyme was only fair first up in an unsuitable race behind Daisy Doon Girls Sunday Fox Play. Obviously quite a big step up in grade from this race, even though this is a Group 3. That day it was quite difficult to run on. It was a slow tempo. It only beaten 4.5. I'm not too worried about that first up. Did improve significantly second up last preparation in the Tibby Quality, same sort of race as this, sort of 1400 metres as opposed to the mile. Did have a trial in between as well, so a little bit susceptible considering that, but if it does get up on a slow tempo, can run a bold race. Caravali's also I really like. She finally got conditions to suit last preparation and bolted in over the 2000. I don't mind her second up here after having a 1550 first up when running on in easier grade against a slow tempo around an unsuitable track. So she's tough to beat here, I think, from that inside gate. Natoya ran quite well last time. Third up, 7-day back up to the mile, does look suitable. Only beaten 2.1 by Dixie Blossom's Raymond Francoletta. That's good form for this. Where does she get to? Here is the issue. Does she get back? She obviously likes to cut out of the ground. That's going to help her. Not a horse I can find at $3.70, but definitely not surprised if she blows their heads off either. She showed that immense amount of talent there when she got to the heavy track last prep. Anything like that, and she's right in this race, even though it was only a fair race. She destroyed them there. Talked about Pioneering, don't think it runs the mile. The Pinnacle's interesting, obviously resumed over the 1350 and really ground away there. That was a nice enough race for this. Then went up to the mile, run down late by Quick Defence, and again really one paced. The only reason I really give it a solid chance here is because it does look the one likely to roll forward and be on the speed and battle away, but I think it's looking for further already. I think the second up at the mile, it's definitely up in grade here, even though slightly down in weight, and it does look quite vulnerable to me. La Corbett resumes, has a bit of ability obviously, but usually needs a run or 2, and I'm expecting it to need the run today and not really have the turn of foot to get over these horses. Dreams of Paris, its win in Melbourne was okay, hit the front nice and early and only run down late there, but it was only a fair race. Hasn't really seen anything like this grade before, but does have a little bit of speed. Interesting to see where it ends up. It's a bit of a jockeying position here for the first 4 or 5 in the run, and that should be quite interesting. And I thought Shagra's run was good the other day, definitely looking for the mile and definitely the wild card in the race, and can't knock it at $13. Just worried again about where it's going to get to. It might not be too bad a thing to be sort of back in the running line here. I thought, sort of 2 lengths in that fillies race last start, where it was strong late after being out sprinted, is good enough for this race. So betting around the favourites here, I would imagine. Perfect Rhyme at chance, $12, no real confidence. I think Caravali's your best each way chance at $6.50. The Toya and the Pinnacle can win, but I think Caravali's a fair bet there from the inside draw. And Shagra is the improver from the wide gate. Can be stoking up late down the outside. $13 looks great odds about it. Race 2. Far more solid tempo here, even with the scratching of... Oh, no scratching, sorry. Far more solid tempo here. Hoots, and obviously very fast horse, looks the leader. Bit of pressure from Debonairly coming across. Hopefully that opens a gap for Paras just in behind them, if that's the way they choose to ride this horse today. There is a bit of pressure then from horses like a Cume. Should have been in a middling draw, so it could be a bit difficult for those horses out wide in Paras and Jordan. If they don't press, they could end up back, but that won't be a big drama, I wouldn't imagine, in this smallish field. Hootson, obviously the horse to run down. Fast filly, is susceptible for mine. I didn't really love her trial. I'm excited. Was a great effort first up against that slow tempo. Looks to settle a little bit closer here. Positive rider aboard, and very hard to beat. I didn't really like Jordan trial well, 128 days. Think it gets back. Looking for a 3 wide trail. Probably needs every bit of luck to be winning. Paras is an interesting horse of mine. Very talented. Thought its trials have been great. Just a matter of where it gets to. It and Jordan are probably looking for the similar runs. If it gets a pair further back, may put it in danger. But I think this is a nice horse. Who else have we got here? Then we've got all the sort of horses that should be battling around on that speed in sort of Debonairly, Cume, Zanzibar, who all look probably tested by a couple of others and should have been in a similar frame. One More Honey is the knockout from the inside gate, probably ends up well back the fence, but could seriously be getting home hard from back there. I'm just not sure she runs out those longer trips they hope for, so she can sprint well fresh. What are we saying here? We're saying I'm excited, hardest to beat. Hoots and the one to run down, but I think we'll be vulnerable late. Parast and One More Honey, the value runners at odds, obviously. Race 3 really does look at a great race for Estajab. There is pressure up front, possibly for the lead, and that's the only way I think we can see her beaten if she's pressured. And that run took something out of her last start. Obviously a very fast tempo there, had to sustain a long sprint, and certainly wasn't looked after in the straight, as in was tested right out the whole way. So not easy for a 2-year-old filly to back up off a run like that. Obviously 2 weeks since then, the extra 100 metres I don't think is an issue. Probably helps with a bit softer tempo. Can't really find a clear danger. I think our back Barbie looks a nice enough horse, but will get well back. Gongs definitely needs to improve a bunch. Probably had good physical improvement left, but the gap is too big, I think, without bad luck for Estajab and a bit of luck for Gongs. Ennis Hill was a little bit disappointing in that last start effort in the Blue Diamond. Just a little bit weak late there to be too excited about it, even though it is backing grade. Pure Relation trialled really well in between runs. Obviously I think they'll try and take the sit here and really look after her, and then hopefully get on the favourites back, and from that position can run well. I'd probably choose it to be more a place chance than win. Nuclear Blitz I thought was big odds, 50 to 1 or whatever it is. He has good natural pace, definitely can run a race here. I'm not concerned about the extra 100 metres for it. I think it went well for its first start in a race down the straight, which is never easy, and is a certain horse that can improve, showing good pace up there, obviously, and battling on well in fast enough time. So I think for it to only be beaten 5.5, it can run a race here, and that's probably about it. If I had to have a second pick here, I'd probably go Esther Jarb from Pure Relation and Euclid Blitz, and then Gongs and Outback Barbie, and there's still not much between them all. So Esther Jarb, clearly the horse to beat. Hopefully she's come through that run well. Just a bit of a yard watch on her, as she was starting to get a little bit light last start, like as not dangerously last time, but did have the scope to be a little bit underdone for this one, or overdone, overcooked. Race 4, Todman Stakes for the Colts and Geldings. Much more difficult race here. Let's get rid of the scratchings if that will work. Please work. I have to do it manually. They're still in there. Prairie Fire is out, Encryption's out, Bondi's out, Toulouse's out, Republic's out. Let's get rid of it manually, sorry. Performer obviously comes up quite short here. Odds on, F Troop, the Queenslander, has been well backed and is a dominant second favourite. Let's have a look here. 3, 5, gone. Republic needs to go. Shame that Toulouse comes out here. It was my roughie of the day just about here. I thought it's a nice enough horse and can run a race wherever it goes. Once it gets up to the 1600 metres of the size and the Champagne, this horse could well and truly be running big races in big races, running big races in big races. Anyhow, back to this race. Form of 35 days between runs, obviously a strong horse, and tried up okay to me at the trials. It looked like it was looking for a mile already. It looked like it was very close to being overdone, and this would be not surprising if it was not at its best here. I'm just a little bit worried about this horse in general. Draws a gate, gets Bowman, will run well, but definitely not staking anything near $1.90. F Troop does look to control the tempo, I think, here. It definitely looks the fastest horse. Nothing that really has the ability for mine to put the extra pressure on that is needed to really soften it up, and can run very well. Interested to see how they ride Legend of Condor, Performer here. They both look like they're challenging for the same sort of spot in that 1 out 1 back position. Almondon trying to hold the back of the leader. Tchaikovsky, Plaguestone looking for a position coming across. So it's not a clear map, and it should play a big part. If Celtic even can sort of kick up there, and any row further back that Performer ends up, I think it's in more trouble. It's just I don't think it can sustain a sprint long enough to overcome that big a gap against these horses, these fast horses. But it could definitely be 1 out 1 back conceivably too. So it's a tough horse to really want to get stuck right into and lay, but a horse to bet around, I think. Legend of Condor can find that position. I thought he improved nicely last week. Just don't want him over racing. If he can lob there naturally, he's a big danger, and $14 looks generous. What else have we got? Plaguestone. It's had a tough preparation on a horse I'm pretty keen to risk. Celtic's a horse that definitely can improve now. I think that Santos race was pretty strong. He draws a nice gate and should run well. Almondon was a very nice win on debut. Horse really attacked the line there, and I've got no problem finding him at 20 to 1 here in behind them. I think he's a very nice horse that can graduate. And if the winkers go on Tchaikovsky from that outside gate, he'll probably get up there and whack away. Value for me in Almerton x Celtic. Legend of Condor to a smaller degree. F Troop runs a big race. I will be laying Performer for something, but definitely not a horse that I want to empty out on at this stage, because I think this is probably, I'm not saying it's his grand final, but I think it will be his last strongest run this prep, unless Waller, who is a great trainer, can turn him around and get a bit more condition on him and pull him through to his finals. Challenge Stakes, looks a 2-horse race for mine. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. The only thing that helps, so I think it's between Redzell and Veridine. I think Veridine's a really special horse on the way through. Obviously only still a 3-year-old colt, but I think he can run a big bold race here. Redzell lobs wherever he wants to, probably straight outside Super 2 I would imagine. Doesn't want to get to the fence there, he'll just stay outside it. Veridine tries to get on his back. From there it can be definitely a 1-2 all the way position. English is obviously loves this race, loves this track, and draws a nice enough gate. Just think it may get a pair too far back, and the other two may be off and gone on it. Clear third pick though, and don't really see any other real dangers. I think Super 2 will just be a bit of a bunny for Redzell. He'll put her away, Veridine will be coming, and that'll be it. So not too much to learn there, and I really can't see anything else running third than probably English either. Just looks a straight 1, 2, 3. But English is the one I'd probably want to replace if I could. Just throw some roughies in for third. Race 6, the Canterbury Stakes Group 1. Interesting to see the blinkers go on Global Glamour here. I just think she looks extremely well set up from that gate. She's got time to cross them. Back to 1300 looks ideal. She doesn't mind the sting out of the track. The barrier blanket comes off, which I like. There's just a lot to like about this horse today. She loves this track. She runs well at home. She battled on quite well, showing great improvement last start up to the 1400 metres. Narrowly beaten by Endless Drama when left a sitting shot after working extremely hard in the run there. If she can sort of be a little bit more controlled here, and nothing really looks to want to attack her, maybe Showtime's the only other horse with a bit of fitness behind him that wants to kick up. Like Invincible Gem, Showtime, neither of them really want to put too much speed into the race. I think the race will be on nice and early, but I think she'll be ready for it. I think she's in for a tough run here, and I can see her running extremely well. Just got to control her with those blinkers on. The reason why I think the race sets up for her, you're sort of looking at Happy Clapper. He won first up last time in, but was extremely dour, and it was 1400 metres there. He took a long time to hit his straps and really only got over the top of them quite late. Back to 1300 metres here off a tough preparation. He's had 6 runs in there. He's obviously he's had a 119 date break, 2 trials over the 1000. I really think he'll be looking for 1400 minimum first up. So if they can control the tempo and sprint on him here, I think he'll struggle to wind up from that inside draw. Clearly Innocent was obviously disgracefully unlucky first up. He copped some bad interference there and was looking for a weird run up the inside. If he had come to the outside turning, I think he would have picked him up. How strong's that race though? That's the issue. Is it strong enough to be coming into this? Obviously 1300 on a softish track looks ideal for this horse. He's won a Group 1 over this trip on a heavy track, and he's won a listed race over the same distance on a good track. So he can run well. Bowman obviously on again, and he'll have it in the right spot. Endless Drama just looked really one pace last start. I'm assuming that back to 1300 doesn't look ideal for this horse. I thought it was looking for a mile already. Happy to risk it today. Darren first up off 112 days. Obviously being targeted at this. Hopefully runs well, but a bit more on trust and watching betting with it. Fox Play's another one to me that looks like she's looking for further already. I'm not really too worried about her, especially from a wide draw. Invincible Gem just trialling okay, I thought, and not an easy task first up. 190 days straight into a Group 1, giving away fitness. She is a talented animal. Wouldn't be surprised to see her run well, but definitely not the ideal setup. Showtime ran really well there last week down in Melbourne, not 2 weeks ago, in the Group 1 at the Weight for Age. Similar to this, and can't see him running a poor race. He's a talented horse, but again, back in distance, not sure if it suits him, but at least he'll be on speed and should be tough. Tulips was a good win the other day. Draws ideally, can be the one right there as well. So I think the 3-year-olds look the main dangers, and Clearly Innocent. I think the others are all looking for 1400, and Invincible Gem just faces a tough task first up, and so does Darren. So for me, I think Global Glamour is clearly the horse to run down. The 2 3-year-olds look the main dangers, and Clearly Innocent can be warming up late, along with Happy Clapper and Endless Drama. But I just hoping that they're going to be a little bit too one-paced here over the 1300, which is more like a sprint trip than the 14, 15, 1600 metres that most of these horses excel at. Race 7, Randwick Guineas. What a race it is. Kementari comes up quite a dominant favourite. Obviously absolutely airborne, the horse, and draws an ideal gate again where he slots in wherever he wants to. Basically probably ends up 1 out 1 back, 1 out 2 back, depending on the tempo. Siege of Quebec obviously didn't jump last start and show his customary speed, but he'll want to go forward. It's interesting to see there's not too many horses here that really want to take up a position, and maybe Trapeze Artist ends up there again, which will be not ideal, but hopefully he gets a bit of cover this time, a bit positive early. He ends up here and something will get caught wide and give him some cover. Condor probably rolls up there. That doesn't look too unimaginable. I think he can run a race at odds. I think he's a quite really good roughie. The horses that look struggling to find a position at D'Argento, Age of Fire, these horses drawn right out here that look to have to settle back and give a start and won't be ideal. Ace High and Perorata will just camp in right behind. I think they're well placed as well. So the big guns in Trapeze Artist, Kementari, Ace High, Perorata look well and truly drawn to advantage here, and that should see most of them in the finish. I think Condor's the knockout at big odds. I think he's a bit of a forgotten horse, obviously racing well up in grade, but he's super strong. He's got that 1800 metre run under his belt. He's back in trip, and he can put a bit of pressure into this race nice and early, and that can see him running well at big odds. More a place hope than win hope. Kementari ticks all the boxes. Trapeze Artist peaks third up, and can definitely see him running extremely well. Perorata is the one that probably has got the query on him of have they gone to the well one too many times. Gate 1 certainly helps his cause, and he just needs to smother and sprint at them late. D'Argento draws terribly, but is the horse right on the up, and is the horse you want to see getting space and having room to wind up. You can definitely see him closing hard. Peaceful State comes up from Melbourne. Blinkers go on. He did look very dour last start. Worried that he was already looking for sort of further, but can't really knock Darren Weir apart from being away from Melbourne. No surprise to see him in the finish, but I'm not super keen to back him. I think $8 is short enough. I think $5 is short enough. D'Argento too, but he's one that's probably got a bit of ability on him and has a nicer setup for mine. Roughies that can go in for trifectas, or actually, sorry, Ace High is not really a roughie, never talked about him. He's racing extremely well, and no surprise to see him poking around just in behind them here, just whether he's looking for further as well. But I think Condor and Tangmere are the two I want to be throwing in my exotics right down the bottom, and definitely a race in 5 or 6, I would imagine. I think Trapeze Artist can win. I think Ace High has a slightly less winning chance, but can win. I think Kementari is obviously the horse to beat. Perorata, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I'd rather throw in. I'm just not sure, but he's a talented horse, and I hope he runs extremely well for connections. Peaceful State throwing it in for a place only. D'Argento, place preferred. And Siege of Quebec, place preferred. Condor and Tangmi go in 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I think 20 to 1 a place. Condor's a great bet, and that's about it here. Kementari clearly the horse to beat. Winona Girl, a great little race, 1200 metres for the mares. I think it's actually standout at the trials the other day for me was Ravi, is a horse that's come back in great order. Gets 59 here and has to give 4 kilos minimum to the field, and sort of 4, 5.5, 6 to the rest. So she's got a tough task here, draws well enough. In 6, the speed does look to be sort of inside and out, so there should be some decent pressure with my Mitts Gunpowder, My Country kicking up, and these horses coming across. Conchita Perizada possibly, and Slow Burn. It all depends on how hard they have to go early, these horses, to find a position to the outcome of the race for mine. I think Sugar Bella comes up quite a short price favourite, but could get back quite a distance from that gate here if they're not careful. Quite a conservative rider aboard, and think that it's a little bit vulnerable here. I think this is the day it's vulnerable. I think Ravi's only vulnerable because of that sort of weight impost that she's got, but she'll run well. And Slow Burn the 1200 metres first up, even though she's only carrying the 53 kilos, is probably the little query, but I do think she is the horse to beat, along with Sugar Bella, who will get the softer run and will be strong late, but is 56 days between runs, even though she's trialled up in between. I think the main winning chances are Ravi, Slow Burn and Sugar Bella. A few things against quite a few others here, and I think they're the dominant lot. Miss Q down the bottom at 25 to 1 is a horse that I think will be running on and can run well at odds. And Perazada, if it has any luck in the run, it could lob one out, one back after 200 metres, and you're like, what am I doing? Why didn't I find this horse again? She's airborne and can run well. She's set up well. That's about it for that race. Actually, talking about prices, I think you can nearly play Slow Burn and Ravi there, and Sugar Bella goes in quaddy sort of exotics. The last, not a race I'm too excited about, 2,000 metre race, quite a few scratchings. Orvray, Show a Star, More Energy, Admiral Jello, Imperial Aviator, Shalmanese are all out. Allward comes up to 7 to 4, $2.80 favourite, 500 metres up in trip second, up off an unlucky run. Not a horse you can really find. If Singing gets to the front here and can dictate, and it's over that last start cardiac arrhythmia, it's a serious horse at sort of $8 or $9 that you could definitely find. I think it can improve significantly. Patrick Aaron comes over from New Zealand, back significantly in distance, 49 days between runs. Not sure how to line it up, but probably rather risk it. Karsov gets the run at what needs from that inside gate, but needs to hold a position. You see that most of these horses are probably going to cruise across from the outside and could shuffle Karsov back. Smart As You Think comes up from Melbourne, races on pace. The horse that's absolutely airborne is Empress Way, but you can see it's drawn really awkwardly. Do they go back or forward? I'm not really sure. Can win. I'd definitely be throwing it in. I think it looks a race to bet around the favourite for mine, even though, again, you could look pretty sad late. It might be a talented horse. It's not a horse I've never ever really got too excited about, but it is a winner. I think today's the day it is probably vulnerable, and I think that Emperor's Way, who is airborne, and Singing are the two that look value around the $8.50, $9 and $6 mark. Two horses that are, well, Singing's got that blemish last start, but a team that they knew that it was underdone and can bounce back without surprising at all here. Beaten a long way obviously there, but this is a totally different race. Tally can pop up, Patrick Aaron can pop up, Karsov can pop up, but these are not horses you really want to get too excited about day to day. Allwood's definitely the danger to Singing and Emperor's Way in the last. So it's a bit of a funny day. The big races are not easy, but there's one or two that look to be bettable races, and we'll keep a close eye on the pattern and see how we go. Thanks, guys.